I'm Leanne Christine. I'm the head coach and program mentor for brain health analytics and the cognitive clarity scan, and I'm super excited. I'm going to share with you a story today about one of the clients that I've been working with. His name is Clay, and he's a high performing professional. So he's a senior lead technical engineer. He's working in a B2B client facing, high pressure, fast paced business. So that's Clay. And a little bit about what I do. I work with high performers. So professional leadership positions, entrepreneurs and founders. And usually they come to me because they're in a place where they're just in these cycles or patterns of so much pain, really, overwhelm, burnout overall, fatigue. They usually are at a place where they're not fully trusting their decision making. So they're kind of, the burnout is kind of suppressing their trust in themselves. They have a lack of work-life balance, things like that, and they're questioning whether or not they can actually continue like this. They're at a breaking point, and they want to break free from these patterns and cycles. So we start working together. I like to think of subconscious patterns in the cognitive clarity scan, right? Because we have 20 subconscious patterns that we get to isolate and look at. I like to think of them as distorted geniuses, because there's two sides to a pattern, right? There's the side that is the contracted, limited side that keeps you small, and then there's the other side that is the genius, right? The inherent wisdom that is also present inside a pattern. So the hidden strengths, right? Because for some reason, due to past trauma or whatever it was, and memories and experiences, we've created systems and ways to cope with that. But we also have the positive sides. We have the sides that are the wisdom and the inherent strength in there. So I like to work with clients to begin sort of unraveling those limiting sides and really focusing on those hidden strengths and having those be the empowered, unimpeded by limitation, the way that we embody ourselves every day. So Clay is an interesting guy. He is incredibly creative, very empathic actually, but still have performing in this environment, right, that he has created for himself. So he came to me completely depleted, exhausted, just in this cycle where he was working overtime. He really lost himself inside this position of being the island hero. And he said, Leanne, I'm alone. I am completely alone. And it was so isolating where he had placed himself, because he really believed that he was the expert at solving problems. So because he was client facing, anytime a client came to him with a problem, no matter what, he would say yes. So it just kept building like a sandwich. Just picture that, like a high, like a 10-story building of mattresses, just like problem after problem after problem, and he would expedite whatever came next, and there was no real like he wasn't sharing that load with anybody. He was taking it all on for himself. So he was feeling also very disconnected from the people around him. So his coworkers, management, things like that. He basically thought of himself as a fixing machine, right? Just kind of like very detached from his own humanity in a way, and his own lack of joy, because he didn't have that. He wasn't connected to it. So he had like severe stomach pain and massive headaches. So it got to the point where every morning, just the idea of checking his email was creating this tension in his body and these headaches. So he felt basically he was in survival mode pretty much all of the time. And and he didn't feel authentic. So he wasn't really answering questions based on any kind of internal wisdom and somatic presence in his body. It was just like a click. Like he called them, I give them pat answers, right? It's just a reflexive generic answer. Yeah, I can do that. It's probably this, but I don't know. we'll see. So he took the scan, the cognitive clarity scan, and it was a huge, huge eye opener for him. So of the 20 patterns that it identifies, he had 18. He had almost all of those patterns actively impacting his life and his decision making and his emotions. So 18 out of those. So 3 scores were at the highest they can get. So emotional deprivation, social isolation, and approval seeking. So those are the 3. And as soon as he saw approval seeking, he knew that was the big spot where it was causing a lot of pain in his life, because he knew right away, but he didn't know any of the details because he couldn't figure this out. He didn't know what to do about the cycle he was in. He didn't know where to start. He didn't know what was causing it. He just knew he was in it, and it was like a runaway train. So he needed some help to slow everything down, take a look at what it could be, get some clarity, and have a place to focus on so that he could get some relief. So that's what the scan was able to do for him, like right away. So what we began to discover after working together, even on the first session, right? Because when you go through the scan on your first session, it's a huge eye opener. You can get relief just in the fact that you've read them, you're understanding things. You basically have these aha moments again and again. Oh my God. Oh yes, that makes complete sense. And for him, that's what that was like. It was a big aha moment. And he realized that he had put himself in the belief that he was the only one who could solve these problems, and that he could do the impossible, right? I can do the impossible. It doesn't matter what it is, I can do it. So he put himself in that high standard. Another pattern he had that he scored very high on was called unrelenting standards, which is perfectionism overall. And so approval seeking for him was the idea that if he could be this island hero, if he could be the one saving the day all the time, he would finally feel loved. And it took him a while to actually arrive at this place because he didn't know that was what was behind it. So basically, he said to himself, if I'm not the island hero, if I'm not that person to not just customers and upper management, then I won't be loved. That was the belief. So that was running all of those patterns, the perfectionism, the approval seeking. But at the end of the day, it was all emotional deprivation in a way, right? So that was the driver, because that starts so early in our development as kids. When we're not getting that presence, we're not being mirrored, we're not getting our needs met, we're not being acknowledged. So we begin to create these adaptive ways of coping with that lack of presence and love. And then so what we do is we try to be perfect to get that love. We try to get more approval, because if we get that, that means finally we'll arrive there, we'll get what we need. And so we did pivot to emotional deprivation, so we're focusing on that more now. But after only 4 weeks, when Clay took his scan again, this is after 4 weeks, his scores went down tremendously. 9 active patterns. So his patterns decreased by 50%, his active patterns. And he realized just by looking at that he was living in the past. So when he did his scan the first time, he answered the questions authentically and honestly. But what he didn't realize is that he was living so deeply in the past that his answers to those questions were from the past trauma. It was from past beliefs. So now when he did the scan again with all this awareness and all the work that we've done and the movement that we'd made, he realized that was an old me, and now there's a new me emerging. And so now Clay has boundaries. Okay, so the hardest part for him was to be able to give these problems or these items that had to be fixed, because he's in tech, right? It has to be paid attention to. It has to be resolved. So he's already been passing it up the line. He had to pass it up to upper management. He had to, but he didn't want to, because he wanted that love and approval. So now he's doing that. He's able to do that. it's titrated, right? One, because he needs to feel safe when he does that, when he delegates. And then the experience he gets after it is validating and trains his body. So he's in the process of doing that one step at a time. And he said it's life-changing. He now takes lunch. He doesn't work past his end of day boundary. So he has space to recover and relax and fill his own cup. He says that now when he gives answers to coworkers, it comes from a more authentic wisdom place, and he brings his body into the decision making. So he didn't have a somatic connection to his body. So he was all, all in the mind, very cognitive. So now he listens to his body and the signs and signals that it gives him when he knows, okay, something feels a little off. I'm going to pause and I'm going to think about what I want to do, what decision I want to make, who I want to give this to, and why, from a more spacious position instead of his pat answers that he would normally give and take it on himself. So he's sharing the load, which he never did before. The way that he communicates has increased. People have come to him now, coworkers, and said, "You're actually a great leader, and I really like what you said and how you handled that situation." In the past, he would just sit there and he wouldn't either say anything or say, "Yes, I'll do it. I'll fix it." So now he has more of an authentic leadership communication style, and people are noticing, which makes a big difference in his work. So now he's building better connections, because when he was in the burnout cycle, he was disconnected from his coworkers and himself. So he had a high score on depersonalization, lack of empathy. And then his exhaustion was way high too. And his personal accomplishment that he felt overall, like his ability to feel like what he's doing even has a purpose or a meaning, that was very low. But now all those scores have gone down for depersonalization and exhaustion, and his personal accomplishment has gone up, and his happiness index has gone up. So his scores have gone up and down appropriately where they need to be. So it's baby steps, but it's happening and it's changing his life, and he feels like he wouldn't have been able to make this shift without this kind of clarity and this guidance. So I'm super happy for him. Yeah, it's just such rewarding work, and no matter this, it doesn't have to be fast transformation. What matters is these small changes are putting him on a course of fulfillment and purpose and happiness. And he said to me, he's still exploring the love. He said to me just the other day, he said, "Leanne, I feel like I'm in a bubble and love is in there with me, but I'm not letting it inside me." So I thought that was such a beautiful reflection on his understanding of his connection to love and why he's, what's even happening. So this is a starting place for him, because he never even would have approached that subject or even thought that was something he needed to think about or even address. So now he's in a position, a very powerful position, where he can address those things, and that will consequently have a waterfall effect across all areas of his life, his work, his relationships, and himself. So he's in a beautiful place. So yeah, I'm just super pleased and really happy to share that with you.
Thank you, Leanne, for sharing that. And I have a question there. I don't know if you can. We're just
I see your hand.
Yeah. What I wanted to know is, because, of course, we have here. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
So before he had 18 active patterns, now he has 9 active patterns, which is interesting. I saw a question in the chat. Okay, can we see the scan results? Yeah, of course we can share them, but we will not do that right now. But what I'm more interested in, and that's a question I want to ask you, and I think we spoke about this case before, like a long time ago. The end results are, of course, they are amazing when you can get 18 active patterns back to 9, and scores of 1, and 1 in our scan is basically 100%. You get them down. But what I find maybe even more interesting is the persona. Clay is a senior tech engineer. Of course, I've been in the tech industry for a long time, for over 20 years, and I've worked with a lot of techies. What I find more interesting is how did the scan and the analytics dashboard, because it's analytics, and the data actually help you get the permission to coach on certain patterns. Because what we usually see with very cognitive people is that they're in their mind a lot, and it's very hard to even identify patterns, right? So how did this help you, or maybe I'm steering the conversation in a way, but did this help you in gaining access to coach him by giving him data and visual, representation of his patterns?
Yeah, I would say absolutely, because that's what he's used to, data and information. And it was clear as day on the screen. I mean, you can't deny it. It's all there. And he watched some of the videos, the training videos. So there's so much credibility behind the work. It's over 40 years of behavioral and psychological research that's been done by Stanford, Harvard, Oxford. And so that's undeniable. That's a huge sample size that this information is based on, and these averages are based on, and these scores. So it is so accurate because he saw himself in those descriptions. He saw himself. It was so clear to him that that's what was happening. And obviously he took some reflective time. He really did. And our conversations are really important because I understand the scan. I work with it every day, and I don't know if I'm up to thousands, but I've seen a lot of scans, and I'm starting to see patterns. I'm starting to see all the interconnectedness. I see a lot of the hidden depth of that scan. So me as a facilitator, I get to ask those questions based on that history and knowledge that I'm gaining, and I can ask questions that are game changers for him that he wouldn't have even thought to even ask himself. Even the way that he spoke, he said to me the other day, he sent me a voice clip, and he said, Leanne, I'm rewatching our sessions and I can't believe you understood what I was even saying. I sound insane. I sound insane. I said, somehow, Clay, I understood you. I don't know, but this is the relationship that we're building, and the scan is our way in. It's undeniable information. Obviously, they're going to validate that through their own reflection, but the data is there. It's reliable. It's credible. It's incredible, and we had a place to start. So it was very quick. 4 weeks, 4 weeks, and already his life was changing dramatically. And he had a way in to explore himself that he didn't have before. So a context to connect to. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and that's a good bridge, because what a lot of coaching is and also therapy is built upon is intuition, and this takes the intuition and guesswork out of the game. And I hear this many times from many of the coaches that use the methodology, is that it shortens the time. Yeah. And basically, it psychological assessments are used. It's not only us that uses that. I do think we have a very unique way of how we use it, and also a very unique. Well, it's paid. We basically researched over 200 assessments, and this is a combination of 8 or 9 of them. More on that later, actually, because I'm gonna share a lot more about the future of our scan, and about upcoming updates. But yeah, that it shortens the time. That's one of the main things. Okay, I want to go to the next one. Thank you very much, Leon, for
You're
your
welcome.
sharing. And most of you people will get to know Leanne, especially when you get the assessment with her.